Welcome back to this week's edition of a Geschmack of Art podcast. The Torah tells us an unbelievable yisoid in the beginning of this week's Parsha. Ki Seitzei la melchama aloivecha unasonei Hashem elokecha biyadecha. When Klal Yisrael will go out to fight, and one of the soldiers in Klal Yisrael's army will desire a woman that is not Jewish, he is permitted to take her as a wife. What is going on here? We know we're not allowed to marry non-Jews. It is not permitted. It is asur to intermarry. But here we find that it's mutter. What's the pshat? Says all the commentaries, most namely Rashi and the Ramban, from the Gedolei Rishonim, that this person was disoriented. He was overcome with taiva, with lust. He wasn't in his setting. It was unfair for the Torah to be able to ask him to be able to overcome his desire, and therefore it is permitted. And one thing that the great Bali Musar of yesteryear explained to us, which is that if this is permitted because the Torah tells us that this man, it's unfair to request of him to overcome his physical nature, therefore we see from here also that everything else that the Torah says that we can overcome, everything else that the Torah tells us is asur, is prohibited, we can withstand it, we can overcome it, we can fight back. Just this is too strong and therefore it's mutter. That is a whole idea in and of itself. But the great mashkiach of the Mir Yeshiva, Reb Hagoyin Hagadol, Reb Yerucham Levav Zecher Tzaddik V'Kadosh Livracha, tells us an unbelievable tweak on this idea to help us in our daily fight against our evil inclinations. Says the mashkiach, what happened here is that a man was disoriented and off course, and therefore the Torah permits it, because he wasn't in this right frame of mind to be able to fight back, and therefore it's mutter. But if you look in the pasuk, or the psukim following this, we find that although it may be permitted to marry her, the Torah tells us that you should take her, shave her head, make her look disgusting, grow her fingernails out, to make her look as menuvel, to make her look disgusting to you. Which Rabbi Yerucham explains something unbelievable. We see from here that even after a person fails, after a person falls, it doesn't mean just throw away the book. It doesn't mean throw the baby out with the bathwater, Rachmana litzlan. It doesn't mean to be miyayish. Just because a person fell, that's when a new battle begins. We find this throughout Shas and throughout the Musar Sfarim, this idea of fighting, and even though you fall, getting back up and fighting. Perhaps this takes, this Yisai can help us in a few specific areas. The Gemara in Ksubis tells us that a person should say thank you to his head, thank you to his skull and his brain, in Maidim, literally say thank you, because when he's spacing out during his davening, during his prayers, when his words, when his heart gets up to Modim, the prayer where the part in Shemona Esrei when we bow, our head subconsciously bows, our body naturally bends over without us even thinking. As if to say, although we're not having proper kavana, proper conversation in our davening, our head bends over and still remembers that we have to bow. Ad kidei kach, and that's already a point in hakaras hatov and giving proper thanks. But I'd like to say that what happens after the modim? When a person's spacing out, he's up to modim, and all of a sudden he feels somebody bending over. Oh wait, that's me. I'm bending over because I'm up to modim. And now he's got sim shalom and a l'kai nitzar left over. He's got 2 brachas left of the Shemona Esrei. He's already lost. He's fallen to his yetzer hara, his evil inclination, and now we might be able to say, I've lost the Shemona Esrei. Or does he say, I still have sim shalom. I still have a l'kai nitzar. I can chaparine these last 2 brachas in Shemona Esrei. That's what makes a person great. That way he finishes his Shemona Esrei. We find this. A person could come home. Who knows? Maybe at the end of a long day, a man or a woman could come home from work and say something he didn't mean. Something that was, I had a tough day. And it puts a dark cloud over the night. And who knows what will happen? He thinks the night might be lost. Or does he say, name? I said something I didn't mean. I said something that wasn't nice, and now I'm sorry, and let's move on from this point on and weiter. So strong is the Yetzer Hara's desire for us to throw away everything when we've already fallen. This is not the idea of Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam, that a person who's faced with different challenges beats some and loses some. This is in the same challenge, in the middle of the same fight, still fighting back. The person has lost. He has fallen for someone he is usher to marry, and the Torah tells us, don't give up, make her disgusting to you, fight back. Perhaps we should write new Gedolim books. I heard this from one of the, I think it was Rav Zev Smith, new Gedolim books that focus on the Gedolim's, the sense that they were regular people. And through tremendous effort and fight is what made them Gedolim. Through inhumane strength to overcome their Yetzer Hara. But not the Gedolim stories that they knew Shas by 6 years old and gave a public drasha for an hour and a half by the age of 7. Avada, that's what the Gedolim are. But so much of what their greatness is the ability to have the kavana in after it hasn't gone well at the beginning. Not to say the Gedolim don't have kavana the whole entire Shemoneh Esrei. They do. But if there ever was a time, they chapped Orion the end of it. Perhaps it's another underlying message in the blowing of the shofar, the entire Chodesh Elul. Why don't we wait to blow it on Rosh Hashanah? Like the Rambam tells us in Hilchos Tshuva that we blow the shofar to be able to wake us up from our slumber. Uri yeshenim mishinaschem. Mehevle azman. Wake up and do tshuva. So maybe blow it on Rosh Hashanah to start my tshuva for Yom Kippur. Let's blow it a week before Rosh Hashanah. The ganze Elul, every single day in Elul. Maybe perhaps another idea is that throughout Elul, even when you had an afila, that you made a Kabbalah for Elul, or you tried to do tshuva for Elul, and you fell, you get right back up. You hear the shofar again the next day. It's this constant fight, the constant battle. We don't even have to say the famous adage of it about it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. It's obvious to us. Every single morning, we hear a shofar, let's get up and do it again. We can fight back. We can counterattack. We can come back from 28-3 at halftime to win the Super Bowl. We can resist. We can defend. Because through fighting back, we are already victorious. What an unbelievable yesod from the Mashgiach that we learned from the beginning of this week's Parsha. Let's all be zeicha to fight with all of our koichas, and the Eibusher should bless us that through our fights we should be zeicha to tshuva shlema b'mher b'yameinu.